Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. It's tank review time again. This is my third Japanese tank review. It's the Type 5 Chiri Japanese Tier 7 medium tank, and you could be forgiven for looking at this thing and thinking, medium? Really? Look at the size of the thing. Let's just compare this against, I don't know, an American heavy tank. Like the M103. Or even the T110E5. Oh, how about the T32? This is huge. As medium tanks go, this thing is absolutely massive. Look at the size of that. You could equally be forgiven for finally getting up to Tier 7 in the Japanese medium tank line, looking at this and thinking, God, is that it? It's because to all intents and purposes, this tank is basically, with one very important difference, almost exactly the same as the Tier 6 Japanese medium tank, the Type 4 Chito. It's effectively the same hull. It's basically got exactly the same armour, but it gets a bigger, fatter, easier to hit turret. A lot of people get to Tier 7 and they see this thing in the garage and they just think, I've been robbed. I want my money back. It is very, very similar to the Type 4 Chito you've already been driving at Tier 6, but there is one significant difference, and that's the last gun available on the Type 5 Chiri. It's an autoloader. It's a very unusual autoloader. Before we get to the gun, let's have a look at the rest of the tank. Quick stat rundown. If you have a look, you'll see it does have a lot of health. It's a lot of health for a Tier 7 medium tank, 1250. It does not weigh a lot despite the size, and that's because it doesn't have any armour. It weighs 42 tons, with the equipment configuration that I have on it. The engine power of 550 isn't bad. It gives it a relatively decent power to weight ratio, 12.97, which is not great, but it's certainly not bad either. Top speed of 42 km per hour, again, not great, but not bad. And it does turn relatively quickly. 34 degrees per second is a pretty good traverse speed. The armour, we'll look at that in Tank Inspector in a moment, but the armour is terrible. Which is not something that's going to come as a great surprise to you if you've been driving your Japanese medium tanks. The armour is pretty much terrible across the board. It's no different at Tier 7. The turret traverse, again, pretty good. 36 degrees per second is not bad. Again, big old turret, but no armour on it, so it turns pretty quickly. The view range of 370 metres. You may notice that in patch 9.1, your posted view range and your actual view range are now shown differently. Same with your signal range. I have fitted coated optics to my Type 5. Which gives me an actual view range of 415 metres, which is not bad at all. Signal range, well, nobody really cares about signal range, but it's almost an 800 metre signal range as well. Now, the armour and the gun are the two big things about this tank. The armour, because it just doesn't have any, and the gun, because the gun is unlike just about every other autoloader in the game. So we're going to flash up Tank Inspector and have a look at the horror story that is the armour on the Type 5 Chiri. But it's not good. In fact, it is terrible. The best armour on the front of this tank is this small area around the gun on the turret front. That there is 95mm thick, but there's hardly any of it. You'd have to be exceptionally unlucky to even hit that armour. Well, actually, technically that's not true. The best armour is the spaced armour gun mantle, which is 150mm thick. Now, that's not bad, but again, it's tiny. Look at it. You'd have to be exceptionally unlucky indeed to actually hit that, especially when there's so much of the rest of the tank that you can hit and penetrate with ease. And even shots aimed directly at the gun mantle are likely to hit and knock the gun out. Getting the gun knocked out on this thing is bad news. The majority of the frontal armour on this tank is here, here, and there. 75mm thick, which is terrible. And it's also flat as a pancake. There's minimal sloping going on there. Now, you may be thinking, well, what about this bit here and that bit there? From the front, I mean, look at the angle on it. It's very, very well sloped. Well, yes, it is, but it's only 20mm thick. In order to overmatch that and just never ricochet, you only need a 60mm gun. So yeah, by the way, for those of you watching the video wondering what that noise was in the background, that was a little dog snorting. That was the mighty Boo. He's sitting on my lap at the moment and he's completely uninterested in what I'm doing. But back to the armour, such as it is on the Type 5. It's terrible. Side armour, 35. Rear armour, 35. 50, the rear of the turret, which is still terrible. 20 down here. The armour is not why people get this tank. Looking at the rest of the stats of the tank, it is pretty much across the board worse than average for a tier 7 medium, with a couple of exceptions. It has very, very good gun depression, 10 degrees, which is better than average. 10 degrees is good gun depression. Also, the aiming time, the accuracy, and the amount that the aiming circle spreads when you fire, when you move the turret, when you move the vehicle, is better than average. The firing characteristics of the gun are way better than most tier 7 medium tanks. The gun is really what this tank is all about. In just about every other respect, it's not a good tier 7 medium, and yet I haven't really had any bad games in this tank. The DPM is, again, very good, 2000 damage per minute, which is better, 10% better than the average of tier 7 medium tanks. This tank is all about the gun. It really is just a very, very nice little gun on a very, very mediocre tank. It's one of those machines where the tank is terrible, but the gun that it carries is actually pretty nice. So yeah, the armour is a bit of a disaster, but not something that you won't be used to from driving Japanese medium tanks up to this point, and if you're not used to it, you'd better get used to it, because none of the Japanese mediums have good armour. The Type 5 Chiri is no exception. The gun, on the other hand, well, this tank gets a choice of 3. One of them you will never use. The stock gun you will never fit to this tank, because the second gun you will have already unlocked at tier 6 on the Type 4 Cheeto. This is the first gun that you're going to put on this tank. You don't need to research the upgraded turret, you can just go ahead, mount it and crack on. Since it is the same gun that you used at tier 6, the damage and penetration are exactly the same, 130 damage, 155 penetration, but the soft stats, the rate of fire, the dispersion, the aiming time, slightly better. Aiming time is very, very good, 1.7 seconds. Rate of fire also not bad at all, 16.67 shots per minute. Where it gets interesting is in the third gun available for this tank, and it is exactly the same as the intermediate gun, except this one is an autoloader. It's the same damage, it's the same penetration, it's the same accuracy, it's the same aiming time, but this one comes with a 3-shot magazine, and it only takes 1 second to reload each shot as you fire and empty the mag. Now that's interesting, and the reason why it's interesting is because while the alpha damage of this 75mm gun is only 130, because it's firing 3 shots in 2 seconds, you've effectively got the same damage output as the KV-1S with its 122mm cannon. That's 390 average damage per magazine, and it only takes 10 seconds to reload the magazine. It actually reloads that magazine faster than the KV-1S reloads a single 122mm shell, and that is what makes this tank so interesting. Also, don't forget that lightning fast aiming time of 1.7 seconds. It means that when you pop this tank around a corner and start firing, the chances of enemy tanks being able to turn the turret, point the gun at you, and aim and get the shot off and hit you, they only have 2 seconds to do it. Well, let's be generous, let's say 3.7 seconds for you to come around the corner, aim, that takes 1.7 seconds, empty the magazine, that only takes 2 seconds, and then start rolling back into cover. That gives you a pretty good chance of being able to fire all 3 shots without taking any return fire. providing you're using the tank properly, and that is what makes this 75mm auto-loading gun such an interesting feature. One final note about the gun, by the way, and this is something that I hadn't realised until very recently, is the ammunition choices. Obviously you get your standard armour piercing, you get your high explosive, and you get your premium ammunition, but the premium ammunition on this gun, there we go, 186mm of penetration, but it's not high explosive anti-tank, it's not APCR, it's just regular armour piercing, but with more penetration. The only practical difference that makes is that since it's not APCR, the shot doesn't travel any faster than your regular credit armour-piercing ammunition. So there's exactly the same amount of lead time that you have to give the target when you're firing at it as if you were using credit ammo. Other than the increased penetration, it's no different to regular armour-piercing ammunition. Just going to take a quick look at the at researching, at grinding and unlocking modules on the Type 5, and it's a kind of good news, bad news situation. You're already going to have this gun from the Type 4 at Tier 6. Obviously you're going to need to research the turret before you can fit the auto-loading gun. The engine is a kind of bad news situation. The stock engine is alright. It's 500 horsepower, which is only 50 horsepower less than the upgraded engine, the Kawasaki Type 98 V12. The bad news about this engine is that this is the only tank that uses it. You're not going to be able to reuse this engine. Now you don't need to unlock that engine to get to the STA1 at Tier 8, and so a lot of people are going to decide, yeah, I don't really like this tank, and just never bother researching the engine. And that's absolutely fine, because you're not going to reuse it on any other tank. Same with this auto-loading gun. This is the only Japanese tank that uses it. You're going to have to unlock this gun to get to the STA1, so you may as well use it, especially since it's the only real thing about this tank that makes it any different from the Tier 6 Japanese medium tank. But it's probably safe to say you can leave the engine till last. You don't get anything out of it other than slightly increased module hit points and an extra 50 horsepower. You're not going to be able to reuse it on any other Japanese tank. If you do want to elite this tank and keep it and keep using it after you've unlocked the STA1, then by all means at that point unlock the engine, but leave it till last. It's really not worth the 11,000 XP that it costs to unlock it. I'm still not sure I could go ahead and recommend it. It is a bad tank, but it's a bad tank with a good gun, a very interesting gun. You do have to respect the firepower of this tank, even if you don't have to respect the tank, because the tank is terrible, but the gun's alright. And I suppose the best thing that I'm really going to be able to do here is I just show you this thing in action. And rather than me saying, yep, this is a good tank, or yep, this is a bad tank, draw your own conclusions based on how you see this thing perform. So let's roll those replays. First game is me. This is one of the first games that I played in my Cherie. It's actually quite an old replay. This is from patch 8.11. It's prior to the changes that were made to Pearl River, so this is the old Pearl River map. I'm in a platoon with Sir Foch and Circumflexes. Sircon is in his Tiger. Foch is also in a Cherie. Now with the terrible armour on this tank, the only real thing that I'm very afraid of getting hit by is the artillery, of which there are 4, or that SU-152. What I'm going to try to do is head for the high ground over to the left, so I can use the 10 degrees of gun depression on this tank. If I end up facing something like the Tiger P, well, I could do more damage to him in a burst than he can do to me in a single shot. And of course, as luck would have it, the very first thing that I run into is the SU-152. You do not want to get hit by large caliber howitzers when you're driving this tank, or any Japanese tank. They will do a lot of damage. And I've got a fraction of a shot, and of course they all miss. I didn't do too well in this game at first. What I'm worried about here is showing this guy the top of my tank. If you notice, the gun if you're going to be in a position where you can point this gun at the target over the crest of a ridge, they're going to be able to see the top of your turret. They're going to be able to hit the top of your turret, and it's 75mm of armour, or in the best case, 90, which is not enough to protect you from a high explosive, high caliber howitzer shell. Foch, on the other hand, has a lot more success than me. He kills the Su-152. We know that there he is, the target P. Now my first burst at this target P is exactly, there we go, 3 shots into it, well, 2 of them penetrated, right into the corner of the frontal armour, where the armour is only 18mm thick. My second magazine, not so well aimed. Zircon drives around to face him in his target. Foch takes an artillery hit there, takes his tracks off, which delays his response. I'm aiming for the turret roof of the target P there, but it's just not hitting. Foch gets his tracks back up, comes around, they kill the target P. Now remember, there's 4 artillery on the enemy team, and I really, we're coming into the position now where the artillery can start hitting us. "10-second reload. And artillery's certainly doing their best to ruin our day. I'm getting paranoid about being hit by artillery here. My turret ring's been damaged from the Tiger P. These guys are both fired. We pop around. And we've nailed the KV-3. However, artillery fires, misses. Then it fires again, and it doesn't miss. It kills Foch. Other artillery, if we just pan back and have a quick look, you'll see the mess that they've made of Circumflex's Tiger. That's what I was worried about on that corner. And there's one of the scumbags. 2 shots. And I'm going to attempt to keep that central bridge column between me and the other 3 artillery. There's one of them fired, misses, one of them fires and doesn't miss. Kills my loader. Get into cover. Get my loader back up. Guns reloaded. Peek around the corner. Don't see anything. Keep moving. I have to try to close the range on these guys. They're going to be on the high ground up there. I need to get under their guns. Still 3 of them left. One of them's a GW Panther. It's bad news. Oh, there's 2 of them. No line of fire. No, can't see them. Keep moving forward. Get under their line of fire. Now, 3 artillery up here. There's one. There's the M41. He's not looking my way. Put 2 shots into him. Don't have a shot at the gorilla. They know I'm here now. The gorilla isn't necessarily going to be able to hit me, but we don't know where the GW Panther is. He could be lying in the bushes at the back there, pre-aimed on this corner, just waiting for me to come around. And he could easily end me in a single hit. Okay, no, screw that. Going around this corner would be dumb. So, I'm not going to go around that corner. It's going to take me a little longer, but I'm going to circle around and come at them from the other side. They've still got 2 tanks in play, but they're over on the other side of the map. This Churchill gun carrier, by the way, I have no idea how he survived this game. Look what he's doing. There's 2 artillery on the ridge above me. They've both got line of sight on him. By some miracle, they just keep missing him. He's just sitting in the cap circle in the middle of an open field, not even attempting to take cover. And how he survived this game, I have no idea. He didn't just survive it, he got an epic achievement award out of it as well. These 2 artillery actually let this guy cap to 100%. They managed to not hit him. Over, and all the length of time it's taken me to drive all the way around here, they do not hit that guy once. You lucky son of a bitch. But I'm reloaded. Obviously, it only takes 10 seconds to reload the gun on this thing. And I'm going for my Dimitri's medal. I want another 2 artillery kills. There's the GW Panther. It's going to take 2 shots to kill him. Actually, no, it's only going to take 1. Didn't realise he was on such low health. There's the gorilla. He knows he's screwed. Bang. There you go. 4 artillery kills. Dimitri's medal. One of my proudest ever achievements. 4 scumbags executed. Fantastic. And that's pretty much it for this game. The VK survives the entire game. We've got a KV-1 there, basically preventing him from getting into the cap. And the 2 of them are just hiding around a rock, and neither of them coming out to get the other. I managed to get myself stuck here. Yay. And the Churchill gun carrier just... You know, I suppose in a way I should be grateful that he was there farming his loser points and not being killed by enemy artillery, because he certainly drew their attention, even though they were completely incapable of hitting him even once. And it's not like he was making it hard for them. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know how he survived, but hey, I'm glad he did. He kept the attention of the artillery away from me. And yeah, he's asking me to let him cap. Yeah, fine, farm your loser points. I don't want any of them. They're all yours. Anyway, that's enough of watching me noob it up and accidentally get 4 artillery kills. Let's have a look at how some of the pros do it. This is Libas in his Chiri top tier, tier 7 game on mines. I probably mispronounced his name. If so, I apologise. I think he may be from Romania. And he does have a couple of lucky breaks in this game, but he makes the most of them. XVM is rating his team's chances of winning this game at 67%. Bear that in mind when you see how this pans out. Now, I mentioned he gets a couple of lucky breaks. We're about to see one of them. KV-13, there it is, on the enemy team, hits him in the flank with the 122mm U-11 howitzer with a high explosive shell, which has 63mm of penetration, more than enough to penetrate his side armour, and will do 450 average damage, and by some miracle it doesn't penetrate and wreck his tank. So there's his first lucky break. So he's looking around for his first target, doesn't really have a shot over there, and that's a Churchill 7, and that thing has got tough armour from the front. With standard ammunition, this 75mm autoloader has 155mm of penetration. If he was using the premium armour-piercing ammunition, he would have 186mm of penetration. But the Churchill's backing off, and if he was to move any further forward over that stretch of open ground, he would be a target for whatever is behind the Churchill. The Churchill had him spotted. So he's backed up, and he's looking to see if he can support from the flank these guys pushing around in the island to the west, but there are just no enemy tanks there. So he goes for a reload. Only takes 10 seconds to reload this gun. Enemy Cromwell, but no, there's nothing here. So he's wasting his time here. He hasn't really done anything so far in this game. Jagdpanther moving up. The only thing that they can see down there is a Hellcat. So perhaps from here he can actually make it up onto the hill and start using his gun depression. Hellcat's taken a hit. Hellcat's down. And he makes it up onto the hill without being hit. So he's fully loaded, he's on the hill, he's got 10 degrees of gun depression, even if his turret armour isn't terribly good. Let's see what we can do now that we're up here. This of course is an encounter mission. The enemy team are all over that cap circle. So he moves up beside this KV-1S, and unfortunately, well, it's a kind of good news, bad news situation here. He couldn't get shots at that guy. I mean, he killed him anyway, but he couldn't get shots at that guy because the KV-1S's gun barrel was in the way. Now, the KV-1S died before he could pull back into cover, but the KV-1S's corpse is now providing some actual armour protection for the Chiri. A couple of them know he's here. That T-34 is not one of them. He manages to get 2 shots into him. T1 Heavy pokes out, fires, bounces, backs off. 10-second reload. Now this would be perfect if he could have just blown that T1 Heavy's wheels off. he could have then put the remaining rounds from the magazine into that guy without him being able to return fire, because his turret and his gun, like that, are on the opposite side of the building. Again, he just doesn't quite manage to get the shot and to immobilise the T1 Heavy. But one shot left, puts it into the KV-1S, backs off. The T1 Heavy is going to be the one giving him problems. He's the only one with a line of fire on him. Come on, finish him off. Takes a hit, gets him. Now his engine's damaged. Uses his repair kit. You see, the trick when there are multiple enemies engaging you like this is to use whatever cover is available, so that you're never fighting more than one of them at once. If there's a bunch of guys to your left, as there are here, only expose yourself around cover as much as it takes to engage the guy furthest to the right that you can actually point the gun at. That keeps solid cover between yourself and everybody else to the left, so that it's constantly... Oh, he set him on fire. Okay, that was alright. Now he's going to use that rock to keep his left side covered from all of the enemy tanks in the cap circle while he goes out to deal with this KV-3. The KV-3 is just about to reload. Oh, and there's his second lucky break. The KV-3 misses, so now he can take his time. The damage output from a 3-round clip of that autoloader is exactly the same as the average damage from a single shot fired from the KV-3, and the autoloader reloads faster. It's worth pointing out, by the way, that barely a minute ago this team was losing 10 kills to 4. Between Libas and the friendly artillery, who are the only 2 remaining players on the team, they're about to pull the scores even. There we go, artillery just nailed another one. The cap is now secure. It's now 2 versus 3. And Libas is going artillery hunting. One shot from that Hummel can quite easily end his little adventure right here. Haven't spotted him yet. There he is. He stops, he aims, all he can actually hit is the Hummel's gun. Now that may have knocked the Hummel's gun out. You're never going to kill a tank by shooting the gun, but you can certainly disable the gun. He realises he's not going to get any further shots on the Hummel from here, goes for a reload, closes in, gets himself under the Hummel's gun. The Hummel at the moment is not the threat, it's the 2 remaining tanks on the enemy team, who may be rushing back to... Really? Did he... That was the Hummel's plan, was it? Back off and point the gun the wrong way. Well, okay. Fine. We're not proud, we'll accept charity. Not a problem. Unfortunately, our artillery is in... Well, he's not in trouble anymore. He's dead. So now it's Libas against 2 remaining enemy tanks. He still has a lot of health to play with. That's one of the good things about the Cheery. 1250 health, it can take a few hits. And it's good that it can take a few hits, because it doesn't have the armour to bounce anything. Tanks like this, it's never a good idea to use your health pool as armour. You rarely want to get into a situation where you're trading health with another tank, but if you have to do it, the Cheery is one of those tanks that will usually come off better in an argument. It just has so much health to spare. But now he's got 2 enemy tanks to find. And, well, at least one of them is in the cap circle. And judging by the speed at which that cap counter is going up, both of them are in the cap circle. And there's one. First shot misses. Second shot misses. This is the only downside of this autoloader gun. It's one of those guns that will fire faster than it aims. It has a lightning fast 1.7 second aiming time, but It has an even faster reload of 1 second. He really did. Wow, he has had some luck in this game. That's the KV-13 again, and he's hit him again with a 122mm howitzer shell. 450 potential average damage, and it didn't penetrate. Although, being hit from the front, not surprising. 63mm of penetration on that gun, firing high explosive. From the front, he does actually have the armour to beat that, 75mm. So that wasn't really lucky. It was lucky that it didn't blow his tracks off and leave him there to be shot at by the T-43. And you've got to wonder what these guys are playing at. They have to know he's here. Are they really trying to... It's as if... Sometimes you have to wonder. It's as if they can't make their mind up whether they want to cap or they want to try to kill him. They're sitting there in the cap circle, but they keep poking out and giving him shots. Or at least they were. And bang, there we go. Oh, it bounced. Oh, it missed. Oh, crap. Okay, he's got to back up and get it to cover. He takes a hit there. Waiting for that reload. Nope, they're not coming out. Moves up. Takes another hit. Finishes off the KV-13. Now he's on perilously low health. He's lost his gunner. And he's lost his loader. And his turret has been hit. His turret is now jammed. And that T-43 has an awful lot of health. His turret's been repaired, but it's going to turn very slowly now. And the T-43 is looking the wrong way. And he sets him on fire. Oh my god. Is he going to use a fire extinguisher? Apparently, no, he's not. Have you ever seen a game like this? I mean, can I have enemies like this when I play, please? It's just... He had some lucky breaks, but you can't argue with the fact that he took advantage of them and made the most of it. And look at the result. That's his Ace Tanker badge, a DeLang Glades medal for killing 4 enemy tanks while they're trying to cap. Radley Walters, High Caliber, Defender, and Top Gun. He did. Wait until you see the amount of damage he actually inflicted on the enemy team throughout the course of this game. There you go, 5,000 damage done in a Tier 7 medium tank. Not just any Tier 7 medium tank, a Japanese Tier 7 medium tank. He even got 500 spotting damage. That was nearly 2,000 base experience. When you factor in premium account and the double for first win of the day, that was a 6,000 XP game. Can I have enemies like that every time I play? Please, that would be lovely. Thank you very much. The final game in this roundup is TJ Shorty. He's in a 2-man medium tank platoon, platooned up with a Panther. He's here on the new map, Kharkov. It's a Tier 8 match as well, so you know, it's not going to be quite as easy. And the enemy aren't quite as dumb in this replay as they were in the game that you just saw Libas play. There's a lot more, I hesitate to use the word skill, involved in this Chiri replay. But, you know, Libas was handed a team full of idiot enemies and he took full advantage of it. TJ Shorty here is going to have to work slightly harder to get the same kind of result. For those of you who haven't played on Kharkov yet, this is just a small segment of the map. I've actually never seen this central square before. Didn't drive through here when I did my my patch 9.1 preview. Plenty of big enemy tanks driving around. And bang, there's the first one. T-29 puts 3 shots into him, 2 damage, one of them blows his tracks off, backs off. You don't want the T-29 to be able to fire back at you. It's a dangerous, dangerous tank. He's checking around, checking his flanks. His buddy in the Panther comes through. The T-29, however, is not alone. And there it is. Now that's bad news. Here comes the T... Oh, this is going to be bad. He's trying to blow the guy's tracks off, so he couldn't bring the gun to bear around the corner. And he does hit the drive wheel and immobilise him for the Panther, and now this is what I'm talking about right here. Went just far forward enough to be able to slam shot after shot into the inner drive wheel of the T-29 to keep him immobilised, but not so far forward that the T-29 was able to return fire. T-29's turret and gun were round the other side of the building, and that's perfect. Now, he has, of course, lost a crewman. But, it's only a radio operator. Nobody wastes first aid kits on radio operators. T-150's still there. That's a Tiger II coming around. Tiger II's got his own problems, however, and there's an SU-152 on that corner. Now, they've split up here, but the T-150 is not paying attention. He's going after the Panther. The Panther's hit him, and TJ sets him on fire. And he burns very, very nicely. Interestingly, this little square in the middle of this housing estate can be accessed from 3 of the 4 directions. Over there to the left, you cannot get into this square, so all those guys spotted on the road to the left, he knows, are not a threat. And oh look, a nice big fat juicy artillery. Ho 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 ho. Goes for a reload. 10 seconds. There's the SU-152. He fires the guy. This was actually a spot of luck. The SU-152 hits him smack in the flank. Why is he not dead? The SU-152 is using 122mm gun and firing armor piercing. He's not using the 152mm howitzer. So that was a little bit lucky. Now, KV-1S. Bounce. That one went in. He takes a hit from the KV-1S. He can't afford to mess around anymore. He will reload this gun long before, well, not long before, but he will be able to get 2 shots off at least. 2's all it takes, before the KV-1S could reload his gun. He did spend some time aiming there, but the KV-1S didn't have a shot at him, which allowed him to take his time, use that .36 accuracy, and plant the shot that mattered right into the commander's hatch. Now, targets around the corner. Yep, thank you very much. 1, 2, 3, back off. Somebody else gets the kill. Not that it matters. I mean, he got his money's worth out of the magazine. He couldn't fire another shot. All that's important is that that's 1 less enemy tank firing back at them. Now they're closing in on the Tiger II. And with a bit of luck, yep, he's facing the other way. Tiger II's tunnel visioning in on somebody, and that's great news. Oh, a bounce. Unfortunate. He still gets 2 damaging hits off. Tiger II is still looking the other way. So we're definitely going to take advantage of that. And there's the next kill. That's not bad, 4 kills. Seem to have really upset that SU-152 driver. Not entirely sure why. Now, an SU-122-44. But where's the T-34? Now watch this. Keep an eye on the artillery. There you go. Artillery just got nuked by the T-34. And if you notice the way TJ span his camera around quickly to look back down the road, he knows exactly where that T-34 is. There's only one place he can be to have hit the artillery from there and still not have been spotted, and that's all the way back down there. So he doesn't take the direct route to go and attack the SU-122-44 in the flank. There's the T-34. Turns out he would have actually been safe, but better safe than sorry. SU-122-44 has been taken out. He couldn't get around the flank and engage him fast enough. Not taking the wide route around because he didn't know exactly where the T-34 was. And now it's just a question of getting some damage in the bonus round on the last tank standing. And everybody's thirsty for some American heavy tank here. 3 shots, make the most of it, but try not to die. T-34 spots him on low health, and his gun's pointing the other way anyway, so he gets a little bit of extra damage in. So in that result, it's another ace tanker game, and high caliber, in a tier 8 match this time around. Now, damage done was not as much as in the previous game, because unlike Libas in the previous match on Mines, TJ didn't have as many idiots to shoot at. He had to work slightly harder to get this result. But look at the amount of experience that he gained. TJ doesn't play with a premium account. If he had, that result would have been undoubled 2,500 experience, which isn't bad for a little tier 7 medium tank in a tier 8 city fight. So there you have it, the Type 5 Cherie. This is one of those rare Jingles tank reviews where I am not going to come out and say, yeah, this is a great tank, you should go ahead and get it, or this is a bad tank, avoid it like the plague. I like it. That doesn't mean it's any good, it just means that I like it. I have had good games in it. Never a great game, but never a bad game either. I have enjoyed driving this tank. That does not mean I'm prepared to say it's any good. I think it's actually a terrible tank, but with a very good gun. That might be enough for you, it might not. Draw your own conclusions based on the information I've given you throughout the course of this review, and the gameplay that I've showed you throughout the course of this review. Make your own mind up. I've had fun driving it, you might too, but I would not be at all surprised if you didn't. The good news is that it leads to the STA-1 at tier 8, which I think is a very, very good tank. It also has no armour, but it's got good DPM, a good gun depression, decent mobility, and it's not as big a target as the Type 5. So it's all good stuff after you get out of tier 7 and make your way to tier 8 down the Japanese medium tank line. And yet some of you are going to enjoy tier 7 as well. It's a very unusual tier 7 medium tank. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Make your own mind up. As always, folks, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time.